Welcome back everybody to another video in which we will be exploring more of Mass Effect's secrets. I was only away for a short bit and I was feeling the urge to hunt down some game secrets. I've been missing this. This is my calling in the gaming space at the very least, I suppose. So here we are with part 6 for the Mass Effect trilogy, because this trilogy is just packed with way more secrets than I could ever hope to cover. However, that won't stop me from trying. So grab yourselves a brew and a biscuit, because we are going to get cracking with 10 Mass Effect trilogy secrets many players missed, part 6. Be sure to let me know if you know about all of these, as I'm sure many of you will. And with all of that said, please enjoy the video. Secret number 1 brings us to the Vamshi system in the Armstrong Nebula, where we will find a planet named Mudgy. Once here, we will need to land on this toasty planet and head to roughly this location on the map, for it's here where we will find an odd skull. It's massive and seems out of place for a planet as inhospitable as this. Fortunately, we can interact with the odd skull, and it will give us this transcript. This massive skull is scored by deflected mass accelerator shots. The xenobiology files in your hardsuit computer can't identify the species. It must have been brought here from an unknown world. This leaves more questions than it answers. What species does this skull belong to? What planet is it from? And who brought it here? Considering how long-distance space travel is explained within Mass Effect's lore, it's pretty tough to actually access an unknown world. But the biggest question of all is why? Why move the skull here? What does it do? What does it prove? What is the point? The planet's description may give us a better idea. The planet's codex tells us unsavoury characters from the Terminus systems occasionally use Mudgy for forms of cruel sport, dumping slaves, hostages, quarrelling shipmates, or even when bored vicious animals on the surface. One must kill the other before they will be rescued from the lethal radiation of the giant stars. So this odd creature appears to be a victim in a pirate's cruel sport. It still fails to explain how they found this creature, but it does look vicious enough, and it kind of reminds me of a xenomorph from Aliens, so I suggest that we don't go finding the planet that it's from. Secret number 2 brings us to the Newton system in the Kepler Verge, also in Mass Effect 1. It's here where we can find the planet Klencory, which has an interesting codex. Klencory is famously claimed by the eccentric Volus billionaire Cuman Shoal. He claims that a vision of a higher being told him to seek on Klencory the lost crypts of the beings of light. These entities were supposedly created at the dawn of time to protect organic life from synthetic machine devils. Shoal has been excavating on Klencory's toxic surface for 2 decades at great expense. No government has valued the world enough to evict his small army of mercenaries. 2 decades before the events of Mass Effect 1, there isn't much reason to believe that the Reapers exist. And yet machine devils threatening organic life is pretty much exactly what they are. What's interesting as well is no government has valued the world enough to evict this Volus' small army of mercenaries, so I suppose there's no real telling of what's going on down there. Surveying the planet will provide us with an eerie transcript. Scans of the planet Klencory revealed the cockpit of a Volus trading vessel. There are no signs of the rest of the ship, but the salvage team discovered one of Matriarch Dilinaga's writings in the ship's systems, so perhaps something went wrong. However, Mass Effect 3 gives us this transcript when we read the codex for the planet. Klencory is famously claimed by the eccentric Volus billionaire Cuman Shoal. His once ridiculed visions of beings of light protecting organic life from synthetic machine devils don't seem quite so far-fetched now. His private army of mercenaries are well established on the planet, waiting for Husks to come knocking on their door. In all likelihood, they will be obliterated by the molten metal of a Reaper orbital bombardment on its way to somewhere important. So it's a neat little story for this planet. However, it has no overall significance, and this eccentric Volus billionaire is just that, in a broken clock is right twice a day scenario. but even then it's a hell of a coincidence. Secret number 3 brings us to the Dis system in the Hades Gamma cluster, for it's here where we can find a planet named Jota. The Codex tells us that Jota is a terrestrial world with a trace atmosphere of krypton and xenon. The surface is hot and mainly composed of unremarkable silicates. Occasional deposits of aluminium, magnesium, and other light materials can be found. However, Jota is noted for the discovery of the Leviathan of Dis, the apparent corpse of a genetically engineered living starship. The Leviathan was found in the bottom of a crater by a Batarian survey team and estimated to be nearly 1 billion years old. It disappeared after a visit to the system by a Batarian dreadnought 20 years ago. Since then, the Batarians have steadfastly denied that the Leviathan ever existed at all, and all the more vociferously when shown recordings of the corpse made by Solarian researchers. Of course, the Leviathan of Dis gets addressed in the Leviathan expansion for Mass Effect 3, but many players won't realise that in Mass Effect 1 you can find the very planet it was discovered on. The deceased genetically engineered living starship the Batarians had found was a Reaper. I suppose it could be inferred that the Batarians took the technology for themselves.
After you ruined my plans, my government accelerated research efforts on the Leviathan of Dis. Have you heard of it, Commander? The ancient organic dreadnought my people recovered from Jartar 20 years ago? Sound familiar?
A Reaper? Your people were studying a Reaper corpse?
Yes. Looking for a way to reclaim our place as the true power of the galaxy. Hundreds of our best scientists were enlisted.
And then they became indoctrinated.
I suppose this serves as a bit of a cautionary tale. If you find Reaper technology whilst exploring the galaxy, leave it alone. Secret number 4 can be found during the Layer of the Shadow Broker expansion for Mass Effect 2, in which we find ourselves searching Liara T'Soni's apartment on Ilium. It's here where we can find her doctorate certificate.
A doctorate from the University of Ceres, Avanthesia. She's getting good use out of all that education.
What's strange about this diploma is it looks exactly the same as how it would be written were it on Earth. I find it really strange that the basic layout of an Asari certificate isn't even different to that of a human certificate from Earth, but I suppose that's deliberately done because you can't make a space sci-fi adventure game and have that be satisfying without a touch of anthropomorphizing. What makes it a little stranger is Mass Effect doesn't avoid touching down on this subject at all. It's explained that species understand each other via use of translators, so to a human it sounds like everybody speaking a human language, but to a Turian it will sound like a Turian language, an Asari will hear everything in an Asari language, and so on. But that doesn't explain why an Asari doctorate would read in English. The more you think about it, the more it will shatter your suspense of disbelief, basically. So let's just stop thinking about it. Secret number 5 brings us to the Armstrong Nebula's Gagarin system in Mass Effect 1. It's here where we can find the planet Pressha. This small hydrogen-helium gas giant's codex reads as follows. When the Krogan rebellions ended 3 millennia ago, the Turian chief of naval operations, a distinguished soldier named Klencory, declared his immediate retirement. He disappeared into what was then uncharted territory. It was only 200 years ago that his ship was found on the surface Pressha's largest moon. It had landed gently and been deliberately shut down. Of Admiral Klencory, however, no trace was ever found. It's a cool bit of lore for a long-lost Turian war hero, but it contradicts every other source as to when the Krogan rebellions took place. Everything and everyone else states those events occurred around 1,500 years prior to the events of Mass Effect 1, not 3,000. Regardless, it's interesting that his ship was found on a moon of Pressha's. Admiral Klencory's body was never found. Secret number 6 is a tiny joke you may not have picked up on during an interaction with Admiral Koris during Tali's loyalty mission in Mass Effect 2. Tali introduces Koris as Admiral Koris Vas Quibquib after the vessel he's assigned to. In Quarian culture, Vas and then a following name would be a reference to the ship they're assigned to in their names. This is the joke that I found amusing.
If it bothers you, maybe you should find another ship. I've occasionally entertained the idea of requesting a transfer. Something with a nice, respectable name, like the Deferens or the Ictomy. But I am proud of the Quip-Quip.
If Koris was to be transferred to the Ictomy, he would be known as Admiral Koris Vasectomy, or Vasectomy. It's a dick joke. You're welcome. Vas Deferens would also mention the part that would get cut during a vasectomy procedure, so it's a quite well thought out joke, and if you don't get it, then it just sounds like a regular conversation. Props to BioWare for that one. Admiral Koris is a walking dick joke. Secret number 7 takes us aboard the Normandy in Mass Effect 2, where in a conversation with Mordin Solus, we can hear his thoughts on the Cerberus retirement plan.
Have you got a minute to talk?
Later, updating crew dental records. All Cerberus personnel have cyanide capsules in molars. Primitive. Ocular nerve flashbangs harder to disarm. Anything else?
This plot will thicken in Mass Effect 3 as at Liara's Shadow Broker terminal aboard the Normandy. You can read about a Cerberus operative interrogation carried out by 2 Alliance personnel that ends with a death that was seemingly caused by an ocular flashbang. Cerberus was listening. I mean, thanks Mordin for giving them ideas, I guess. Secret number 8 also partially occurs during Tali's loyalty mission in Mass Effect 2. When aboard the Alarai, which is overrun by Geth, we can find this recording.
I locked down navigation. Weapons are offline. Our mistake won't endanger the fleet. I'm burning through the door. I don't have much time. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Jona, if you get this, be strong for Daddy. I love you very much.
A Quarian mother's final message to her son before she's killed by the Geth. In Mass Effect 3 there is a touching scene with a Quarian named Don Hatz Don Rannoch, who will say this before he dies.
Please, listen. The civilian fleet didn't want this war. If there's even a chance that Admiral Koris can get us out alive, and my son, tell him, tell Jona that his father made it to the homeworld.
So we witnessed the deaths of not just one but both of Jona's parents. Secret number 9 occurs towards the end of the Citadel DLC in Mass Effect 3. However, there's a bit of context to establish first. In Mass Effect 2 you can acquire a space hamster. He sits in a box in your cabin and doesn't do an awful lot. In Mass Effect 3 you can find him crawling about on the engineering deck. You can catch him, and if you do this, it will trigger a relatively funny interaction in the climactic moments of the Citadel DLC in which Shepard's evil clone is trying to steal the Normandy.
Please send this to an animal shelter for proper disposal, as a warship is not an appropriate... Oh, that is not okay. You messed with my hamster, guys. Now it's personal. Guys? Were you gonna say something, or... No, I get it. Hard to even find the words. Should we check on my fish? Because if he's getting rid of all the pets... we should probably deal with him first, huh? Alright, sit tight, little guy. Anybody gives you trouble, go for the eyes.
This is a nod to Baldur's Gate, in which a character named Minsk has a hamster named Boo who he instructs to go for the eyes. In the context of Mass Effect it means don't fuck with Captain Squeaky, or Commander Shepard will come for you. And finally, secret number 10 can be found during the Leviathan expansion to Mass Effect 3. In Bryson's lab on the Citadel you can find a disembodied Husk Head. Pretty creepy, right? It's just sat there screaming at you every time you interact with it. Well, if you keep doing that, it'll explode and respawn the next time you come back. However, that's not the secret. The secret comes upon your second visit to Bryson's lab here, where you and James can conspire to steal the Husk Head, where it will then sit happily in the captain's cabin of the Normandy and engage in beautiful conversation with the space hamster. Okay, Shepard, first question is, who the fuck would want that staring at them whilst they were asleep? No wonder you have nightmares. And that brings us nicely to the conclusion of today's video. Thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends and all that wonderful stuff. That would be awesome, and I'd really appreciate it. And of course, if you like history, be sure to check out my history channel Decades. I can't say it's brand new anymore, it's a couple months old. But yeah, there's some cool content coming out over there soon, including a video I posted recently, so if you like that stuff, go and check it out. And if you're not a big fan of history, don't worry, there'll be plenty more here too. Anyway, with any luck, I'll be seeing you all very soon with another video at some point, but until next time, take care and goodbye.